Happy Cinco de Mayo 2023. This is the Exponential Files podcast. We're your weekly EXP-centric podcast dedicated to informing you about the newest EXP Realty news and the newsmakers at EXP. Our guest today is Gabe Baker, who will be enlightening us about the unique EXP tech tool known as EXP World. My co-host is Larry Laufer. How you doing today, Larry? How you
Peace,
doing,
baby.
Gabe? So, Gabe, let's get right into the show and let's talk about EXP World. What should our viewers know about EXP World, and also what's coming with EXP World 2.0?
Sounds great, Jim, and I appreciate you having me. I'm very excited to get into this with you all today because it's an important topic and it's an exciting one. So first off, I primarily am focused on EXP World, what we're calling EXP World 2.0. And everyone at EXP knows EXP World. Glenn, of course, the EXP founder, has always been like a big believer in this metaverse stuff, even before this recent metaverse hype cycle. And he was into this well before anyone else thought it was cool, which was really interesting. Like EXP's sort of one of the first real metaverse enterprise success stories, like a company that actually uses the metaverse in ways that help the company work remotely and scale and expand and do its business. But we know that sometimes people struggle a little bit with downloading and installing software. It's a lot of things run from the browser these days. So the challenge that I was presented with was, hey, can we make this stuff just run on the web? Like, can we make a lean, mean version of this metaverse technology that runs right on the browser? And that's what EXP World 2.0 is all about. So rather than downloading and installing and opening something up and getting patch updates when you open it up a week or two later, this stuff just flies right on the web, works on desktop, mobile, and VR. And I'd love to share my screen, just give you a little glimpse of it, if that's okay with all of you.
Sure.
I'll fire this up and then feel free to wing off any questions you have about that spiel I just gave you.
Yeah, like, are there any other notable companies that actually are using metaverse environments in their business, and how are they doing it that may be similar or different from the EXP?
Totally, it's a great question. So I love EXP, but I have my eyes set and my ambitions set on like driving revenue for EXPI in a way that goes well beyond just making a tool used by EXP Realty itself. So we have a product called Frame that actually like is EXP World 2.0, but for the rest of the world. And we're already selling this thing. We have a subscription model, like for just off-the-shelf SaaS. But we also do like what we do for EXP for other large clients. As one quick example, Janssen & Janssen Pharmaceuticals, we recently did a deployment of our software for them. They go to a URL, it says like Janssen & Janssen Metaverse, and you're in there interacting with your colleagues. Now, you might be wondering, well, why would anyone do this at all? Why would a company get into this at all? What's the draw? Why do it versus a Zoom? The truth is, each company kind of has their own reason why this technology makes sense. For J&J, quite simply, they just have a lot of teams that come together online, and they wanted to have a space that helped them all sort of feel together. So if you look at the space I'm in right now, this is kind of a large like support center environment. I'm roaming around with my avatar, and there are all these different little rooms where different teams can meet up. These are little private audio zones, so one team can meet in there while another team meets in there, while support agents give help out here. And it kind of provides this like sense of togetherness and space that's actually very hard to have on a Zoom call. And it also lets them put up, they put up like PDFs on the wall and videos, sort of learning materials that people can just walk around and explore on their own. Also importantly, their environment itself is actually modeled after a real world J&J office. Like the space itself is like part of their company culture, and they're used to it. And again, these are all things that are sort of like difficult to do on a Zoom call. In one of their spaces, they actually have 3D models of like one of their some equipment that's in some of their like manufacturing facilities. So you're like walking around the space and you're actually able to like get a look at the factory floor as you're like walking around and talking about it. So there's kind of a whole set of things that are possible in the metaverse that I think sort of move beyond just like, I know this term's just been like this hyped up term, like metaverse this, metaverse that, but there does seem to be like real value, unique value that companies get out of this, besides just being able to say they're doing something kind of that's hyped up.
So one thing, Gabe. So this environment, we'll call it the metaverse, for in this case, is it Johnson and Johnson? You're saying it's Janssen?
It's Janssen and Janssen, J&J. It's a strange corporate, like Russian nesting doll of structures, but yeah, it's Janssen and Janssen Pharmaceuticals.
Okay, so different than Johnson Johnson. Okay, but it's open 24/7, I'm guessing. So if I work for Janssen and Janssen, I could opt in to go in and sit down, and there I am working at a desk, and someone could walk up to me and say, "Hey, Jim, what's going on? I have an idea I want to run through with you," and totally. they know I'm working, so it's perfectly. I guess there's a metaverse etiquette also that goes along with all of this too.
There's a whole set of like real world kinds of interactions that are very, thinking again about the difference between the metaverse and a Zoom call. You're totally right that when they just come into work here, and when that happens, like, yeah, you could just see someone. I might just see you over there, and it might not be a scheduled meeting that we had on our calendar, but I see that you're there, and I might just kind of bump into you and say hi. This is like the water cooler chats that happen all over the place in physical offices, where people go to an office and they're working and they bump into each other in the hallway. Those conversations are often what end up like being really powerful, being really, that drive the work at the company. It might start as a casual chat, and then it turns into, oh, well, what are you working? Oh, that's kind of interesting. Next thing you know, you're kind of, talking about work. If all you're on are scheduled Zoom calls with people, like, hey, we're meeting at this time to talk about this thing, and then you're in and then you're out, you lose the opportunity to have those kind of serendipitous, like bumping into people moments. But if it's the norm, hey, you're coming in the metaverse to work, yeah, it's cool for a manager because the manager actually can go around and see who's there and whatnot. But people can just bump into each other because you have this space to bump into them.
So I opt into the space. I sit my avatar down, and my avatar is just motionless. Like maybe I'm actually working on my laptop. The metaverse is sort of a small screen on the side. It doesn't show my avatar typing on a laptop. It just shows my avatar just sitting there, right?
Yeah. So if you are just, often people are just plopped in a seat. Like I'm just going to, like, if I just wanted to plop into a seat, I can just click like this little chair button. Now I'm just here. Other people, they see me. I'm just like plopped in a seat. And, I could set my status, like maybe I'm away. This actually makes little sleeping emojis drift up out of my head that you can't see, but other people in here, they'd see little sleeping emojis come out of my head. So they should hopefully know, like, hey, maybe don't come up and try talking to me. But yeah, it's not like people are just always like roaming around. Often people are just, hanging out at their desk, things like that. Now, there are a lot of features in eXp World 2.0 and our main kind of frame product. Like, of course, we have the basics, like you can bring in streaming screens. I just brought here's my webcam here in the world, easy peasy. You can share your screen. You can share your screen with audio. I could pipe this Zoom call into the world so that people in the world with me could see it and hear it. Lots of cool stuff. But there's also a range of, we're trying to kind of think ahead And we're trying to broaden the way that EXP is thinking about how to use this technology generally. So rather than just thinking about it as like, oh, this is a way for people to come together and meet and share their screen and do this and that. Um, Another advantage of the metaverse is that it's a really natural medium for exploring things like, I mentioned 3D models. Imagine people walking through a 3D model of construction of a property that hasn't been built yet, but you have these like the renderings of what it's going to look like. You could let people explore like a commercial build of a property that's being scoped out but not built yet. You could let we have some real estate agents at EXP who take 360 photos of properties that they have listings of that they're trying to sell. This is a 360 photo of a of a room in a house, and an agent could like invite people in to check this out with them. You can pull out the
That's
laser
awesome.
pointer. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
So
very
is this
cool.
different than Matterport, or Matterport is basically the brand name?
This is so that's a great question. Matterport, this is it's similar and different from Matterport. Let me explain that. So Matterport is you bring like a special Matterport camera into a property, and it kind of like generates this big tour for you based on like it captures tons of 360 photos and kind of stitches them all together. But Matterport doesn't really provide a way for you to like meet inside of the Matterport with someone else in the way that
Right.
that this tool does. And these 360 photos, you can actually capture a very good 360 photo without Matterport. Like Matterport is very good, but it's out of reach for a lot of agents for a lot of reasons. I mean, it's still kind of pricey. I think they're a great company. Like I have stock. I think Matterport's great, but you can capture 360 photos even with a smartphone now. And there are cameras that they make. I've actually got one right here. This is just like $150 now. One of these cameras. It's got it's a really interesting camera. It's just got like a lens here and a lens here. Just with this camera, you can boom, you have like a really nice 360 photo that you can bring into EXP World 2.0. You can invite anyone in there and check them out with you. So trying to kind of like get ahead of some of these trends, again, not just because they're trendy, but because we think they can drive real value for the company, for agents, and the world at large.
I think it's really interesting how these tools to communicate what we do and who we are, not just that, but how we do it and who we do it with, who our colleagues are. This is connecting people. So my question has to do with the pandemic when just about everybody went inside. Was there a big jump in the utilization of tools like this during this time? And a lot of people got over the technology part of it, and now they're just embracing the connection part of it.
Yes, so there really was a big jump during the pandemic. Everyone moves online, and then everyone is in Zoom calls like for half the day. They got sick of Zoom calls. Like when you're on video, there's something psychologically fatiguing about being on video calls, like for a lot of the day. And there are studies on this about like, they call it Zoom fatigue. And there were a lot of articles written about like Zoom fatigue, when you're just like, you feel on like so much during the day on these calls, and you've got your what's going on in the background, and you're trying to deal with what's on the call. So there was definitely a phase where like companies were desperate for things that helped people come together online in a way that just didn't feel like a Zoom call. And for a lot of them, it was just like they just needed some novelty. Clearly, it wasn't so like they weren't necessarily convinced this was a permanent transition they were making, but they were just desperate for something other than video conferencing all day. Now, some of them like have stuck with it, even though many companies have not returned back to the office. Many of them have, and it's just like we're kind of going through some societal stuff right now as we decide like back to the office or not. But yeah, we saw a very big jump. We're seeing that some of those companies that started using this technology during the pandemic, some of them have stopped because they've just gone back to the office, and that's that. Some of them, though, have stuck with it. And like Janssen and Janssen, again, like they're kind of an example. Like they went into an exploratory phase during the pandemic around this technology, but like they've stuck with it because they actually get a lot of value from it. Now, some people that use this metaverse stuff, they're not actually using it for necessarily like daily activities. What they use it for is more like, events, online events that might happen once a month or so. And the online event use case is really interesting because there's so much you can do in the metaverse to like reflect your brand and have kind of a more interesting like event online than what you can do on a Zoom call. And some of that is just because of the spatial audio, and to say what I mean there, like in the metaverse, you hear people louder if you're closer to them. You imagine it at a big event like an academic conference or a trade show, like it's this lively chaos of different people bumping into each other, and you kind of see everyone all together. And that's the kind of thing that I think the metaverse is really good at. Like some of these online events, you just see like 100 people in there milling about. You kind of hear the background chatter. You're able to have conversations with different people, move around, see people, and stuff like that. Now I'm kind of rambling and getting way off the
No,
question.
that's fine. So Gabe, I'm thinking of scheduling an event not just open to agents on my team, but invitations that are going out by email. Is this software we're talking about, EXP World 2.0 or Frame, whatever, Verbella, something that rather than going to a Zoom link, that they could come into this environment and already be an avatar and sit and be immersed in this, or is
100%.
that?
You should totally have the event in here. I mean, it'll be awesome. Like, there's no doubt
Really?
about it. Like, it's easy to come into. It's yeah, like you could set it all up with a few cool little things, little decorations or whatever. Put your logo wherever you'd like. Like, it's you totally should. And yeah,
So
this isn't like,
who would help me set that up? And is that a cost separate, or is that something that I'm basically, as an EXP Realty agent, already paying for?
you are already paying for it, my friend. So we're in this phase now where we're just like trying to educate the company about this. We
Really?
are trying to get people understanding what this thing is. This is why I was so eager to like come on here and talk about this. Like, it's so awesome, and like we're just in this phase now of like helping people get their heads around it and use it. We've got someone on our team, Andrew Rice, who like a big part of his job is just helping. He'll do team trainings, multiple of them each day. He'd be someone you can reach out to and just say, hey, this is the event I have in mind. Can you help me set up the space so that it has this, that, and that? And you don't want to be reliant on him entirely. Like, he'll come in and help you get set up, but he'll try to also show you how you can do these things. But yeah, no, you absolutely should do it. This isn't stuff
And
like,
is there a limit to how many people can show up at the event?
That's a great question. There is. So we don't really recommend having more than like 100 people at once inside of a particular frame. And this is, as much as I go on about how amazing Frame is and EXP World 2.0 is, I do want to be super transparent about some of the limitations of it right now. One of those limitations. Fine. Okay, well, okay.
Yeah, I because if I invite, let's say, 10,000 people, I can say limited to the first 100 that show up, and then,
Totally.
it's, rather than getting 3 people, I'll probably get.
Yeah, there might be a little bit of FOMO, like, first come, first serve, what have you. If you're thinking that 100 people are going to be coming in, just encourage people to come in on like laptop or desktop. One of the cool things about EXP World 2.0 is it'll run right from a mobile phone, but in those larger meetings, it can struggle a little bit if you're on mobile. So just have people come in on laptop or desktop, and they'll be fine at 100. But I will say this is an area of like active development for us. I'd say we think that by the end of the year, you're going to be able to pack 1,000 people in here. But
So I'm probably going to need an upgrade on my avatar also. I think my avatar, I don't think I have dreadlocks, but I think I have like a beanie and work boots or something. I didn't spend a lot of time on it. I sort of grabbed a sweater here and
the thing with the avatars,
there.
This is another big difference between EXP World as it is now and EXP World 2.0. EXP world, admittedly, like their avatars are better, and I'm fine saying that. Like the avatars that you're used to are actually better than these. But here's why. It's because EXP World 2.0 runs right from the web browser, we have to be a little bit more cautious with what we call like our graphics budget. Like we have to be very, there's a limit to how complex and sophisticated the graphics can be. So we made the call. I mean, when Glenn told me, "Hey, make this thing run from the web," so I said, "Okay, we do what we can to make that happen." One of the sacrifices we had to make is like, the avatars don't look quite as quite as good as what you might be used to.
Well, I noticed you don't have a neck.
Yeah, well, yeah. Now I will say we are working on the neck. Like, don't worry, these do improve all the time. But it's an important thing to keep in mind is that it's not like you can expect every feature that you're used to just be in here. But we've made the sacrifices that we think make sense, and we think that accessibility is more important than some other things that we've kind of sacrificed. But this will be a controversial thing, no doubt about it. But yeah, we are working on the avatars all the time.
I think we're getting away from the fact that this is a tool to communicate with people, a tool to connect. Like we're not in the office, but we're here in the world. So let's connect in the way. And who the hell cares what we look like? Unless if, like Jim, he chose some things that may or may not have represented him now or in the past. I mean,
totally. I'm with you on that. The avatars are important, but they're just one piece of the puzzle.
Right.
And yeah.
So can your avatar go down to the beach and jump in the water? Can you go swimming?
Well,
can you do the breaststroke without a neck?
The swimming is maybe not a great experience. You're not supposed to really walk into these waves, but
let's try it.
Let's try it. Here I go.
There you go.
At least getting waist deep here.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Well, at least you didn't walk on water.
Can you stick your face under the water and see fish?
No fish in there. And
snorkeling in the metaverse.
Launching some emojis out of my avatar here.
Yeah, but let's go back to like I'm seeing things online like can there be improper interactions in the metaverse, and is that could that be a criminal? Is it a crime? So I'm in let's say EXP world, and I go into an auditorium, and there's a couple of people sitting in an empty auditorium that could seat probably 2,000 people, and it's 10 o'clock at night. Is it proper etiquette to walk up to someone and say hello, or is and what are they doing there in the first place is the other question, because they're just sitting there in an empty auditorium at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, so good questions. And where an area where I'm kind of forced to think about some of these issues of like, improper activity happening in the metaverse is with our education clients. So we have a lot of people that use Frame, the kind of like broader product out there for the world. A lot of people use Frame for online classes. These could be middle school, high school, college, or like kind of adult learning. And in education, these questions are like looked at, under a microscope, because like, of course, in physical schools, like bullying is a very real thing. And so some people think, oh, well, if we do it in the metaverse, like that won't happen. But the reality is, just like in physical space, all you need is your voice to bully someone. And in the metaverse, you've got your voice. So we basically had to build a set of features in Frame that make it easy for people to do things they have to do to kind of moderate the experience. If there's someone in here that shouldn't be in there, we make it easy to kick them out. If you need to password protect the thing as a whole, you can do that. And let me just, while I'm sharing my screen, I just want to show like how easy it is to get into this thing. I just refresh the page. I put in the URL. Here's a little loading screen. And then you're going to see a little connect button, and boom, I'm in. But for many teachers or for many companies, that's actually too easy, right? If the link got out there, then who knows who's going to be in there? If you're talking about sensitive company things, there's a whole range of things that can go very wrong. So, we made it so that you can password protect your frame. You can restrict who can go into the frame by the domain that they're logged in with. Like, you need to be logged in with an eXp Realty email address to go into eXp World. You can kick people out. So yeah, I mean, I'll say that the short of it is, just like in physical space, there's a bunch of things that can go wrong in here, but we've given you some superpowers if you're an admin that help, give you a toolkit to try to mitigate a lot of what can go wrong.
I think it's mostly used, at least I have mostly used this to answer questions. Like it's 11 o'clock at night and I'm here in the Boston, Mass area, and I know that there's people awake in other parts of the country and other parts of the world. And you can ask a question, and it's a sharing of information that doesn't exist in any other way. There's no way I could think of somebody, who can I call? Well, my friend in California, maybe I'll call him. It's only 9 o'clock there, but here you'll always find somebody. That doesn't mean they're going to know the answer or the correct answer, but sometimes you just need to talk it over.
Absolutely. And EXP is kind of unique in, like, yes, they have this metaverse, but it's like staffed all the time. You're right. It's like whatever time zone you're in, like, you can hop in there and get answers, and that's really powerful. Now in EXP World 2.0, we haven't made that full shift to where, like, it's like teams are still kind of migrating over. I'd say there hasn't been like a full migration. Again, we're still in this phase where, like, this thing just got to where we feel like it's like kind of ready to rock, and there's going to be sort of a migration. But our hope is that next time you need to go in to get a support question, rather than opening up the application and downloading the patch update, you just have a URL you can go to. You hop in, and the help you can find is just right here in the browser. See people roaming around. I see people actually roaming around in here. This is where you go to, by the way, if you just go to exp.world in the browser right now. This is like our campus. And we know there are some things, just like with the avatars, might be like, oh my gosh, these trees look goofy, or like, where are my like shadows and really fancy lighting from the downloadable one? Just keep in mind that we're always improving these things. They're going to look fancier, but we wanted to get the foundation there where, like, hey, this is going to be this big campus space. But just like in EXP World, you have the go-to menu that lets you kind of jump to these different destinations, these different offices. You can see this in the go-to menu, like, people are already starting to build out their other little locations within the world. So and I see these are just kind of like shortcuts to different little areas in here. That's awesome. But then it's like, oh, looks like Zoocasa, the Canada real estate company that's under the EXP umbrella, like, looks like they've set up shop in here already. So, like, that's pretty cool. And some teams are still doing kind of a juggle, like, they still have a presence in the current EXP world while they're kind of starting to set up shop in here, and they're doing a little bit of a juggle. It's a transition again. But I'm really excited.
So if I wanted to set up for Castle's Luxury, do we get a broker room here in 2.0 or something like that?
Totally. If you set up shop in here and you had a space, you'd have your own link. It'd be like exp.world/whatever you want to call
Luxury.
it. Luxury. Yeah. And then talk to Andrew, and he could get it right in the go-to menu here. So anyone using the go-to menu could see it and navigate to it if you wanted that. Yeah.
And if we had a meeting, do we have different types of rooms that we can have meetings in? Like, one is a workspace, one is amphitheater style. So you have a choice of environments?
Absolutely. So I'm going to actually show you the process of, like,
Please.
Creating a space so that you can see how easy it is, and you can go in there and actually just do this. You'll be able to look through the recording and, like, to go through the steps. So I'm in exp.world. You need to be logged in. If you're not logged in, like, you'll see just a little login screen. You can use your EXP, like, Okta sign in. And once you're signed in, you'll see a green button here, create frame. I'm going to click it. Check out how easy this is. All you got to do is two things: give it a name and pick an environment. Now, the name you want to be careful with. We don't let you change the name later, and this is the name that will show up in the URL, exp.world/whatever you pick here. So I'm going to pick a name. I know it's not going to be the one that you're going to want to pick. I'm going to just call it Castle Luxury Test, because I know you're not going to want to put test in the actual URL. And then I'm going to pick an environment. We provide a whole bunch. You can change this after the fact, so it's not a real pressure cooker scenario. But I'm going to pick this office space. So two little things that I did, and I'm going to click Create Frame. It does this little Star Wars hyperspace animation thing, and this now is a URL, exp.world/castle luxury test. It's up here. To invite people into it, all you do is share the link. They don't need to download anything. They don't need to install anything. They just
Cool.
put this link in Chrome,
Very
and
cool.
they're here. And this is your space. If you created it, then you have all these superpowers, all the superpowers I mentioned before for moderation. You can edit the space however you want. Now, it's going to be a little bit overwhelming when you're first in here, but what I'd encourage you to think is just that you don't need to use all the stuff that we have in here. You don't need to figure out what every little asset you can bring into the space is. You might have fun experimenting. You might go, oh, what's a whiteboard? Boom. Well, it's a whiteboard. You can draw on it, and you'll kind of explore these things. But we make it easy to like delete stuff. I'm making it all look a lot easier than it's going to be when you're first in here. I know that, but Andrew can train you up. We also make it easy, like on the wall. This is a real common space. We found that people love to just put stuff on this wall. So we made a little convenient button, just a little plus button on the wall. You can click it and then like pick an image from your computer and it'll just be right on the wall. Maybe you want a streaming screen there. Boom, click it. There's a streaming screen. You can put your webcam up. Everyone will see it. So we've tried to make it easy, but then for those that want to go deep and like, oh, I'll bring in a 360 photo, like that fancy thing I showed you before, like you can do that too. But yeah, this could be your space. It's real easy. It took me 10 seconds.
So could it be a side room, which is amphitheater off of this workspace? So
yes.
So people aren't standing around during a presentation. Their avatar can be seated.
Totally. So in this space, just for example, like we tried to make it so that it's good for kind of like larger, maybe you have like a big team meeting where everyone wants to like gather here. Maybe each person has their own individual office. So like people can kind of like claim an office and have that as their space. This particular environment doesn't have a like super big amphitheater, I guess. But if you wanted to change it, you certainly could. This is like our environment picker. We have an environment that's just like a this nice, like, I think we have a really nice outdoor theater actually called Outdoor Theater 2. And you might think, well, I don't want to be changing environments all the time. I want one office and I want one theater and I use them for different purposes. Cool. You could have Castle Luxury Theater as one space, and you could have Castle Luxury Office as a separate space. There's no like limit. You don't need to be like swapping between them. You can make however many spaces you want. Yeah, it's awesome.
It does seem incredible. All of this stuff.
So you mentioned something about Matterport stock. So I know this must be in your mind. So EXPI trades, I would say, in this market environment, sort of like as a real estate company.
Totally.
Real estate's doing well in certain parts of the country, not so well in other parts. Interest rates have gone up. People are sort of not really up on real estate right now. But then you have Meta, which is the old Facebook. Their stock is soaring because it's a tech company. Do you think EXP is more of a tech company or more of a real estate company these days?
It's a good and complicated question, because I have my head in the tech stuff all day. To me, the fact that Glenn supports and incubates this kind of innovation in the company means that EXP, like, I mean, to me, it feels like a technology company. But again, I'm biased because, like, I mean, I work our team.
No, I see this technology, and I mean, I've seen what Mark Zuckerberg has put out, and this looks better. I don't know.
So it's a good question, and now that Mark is in a funny position because this time last year, metaverse was the tech term of the day. Now that balloon has deflated a little bit because the AI stuff is the new buzzword of the day, and Mark's trying to kind of like diplomatically sort of pivot. In his last earnings call, I thought he actually did a very good job of like making it seem like he's actually been working on AI all along, and that it's just two sides of the same coin, this metaverse and AI stuff. It's tricky, but I will say, for a lot of people, our product is actually better than what the Facebook like metaverse product does. But part of it's, part of the challenge with Meta is that their product works on their headset and it doesn't work right on the web. Like it's not as easy to just get into the thing. And I think they did themselves a disservice by making it sort of like a headset, mostly a headset driven experience. And like you put on their VR.
Well, you make a valid point. Bloomberg did a show. I mean, it's many months ago at this point. It could have been like 6 months ago. And it was like the first half hour was Microsoft, Google, Meta. And it seemed like the last half hour of the show was more about Verbella. They didn't mention EXP, but they did talk about Verbella and just going, right to your smartphone and your laptop without the VR headset. So is that what really distinguishes this product from the competition? Is that you need a headset for the competition?
It's a big one, certainly when compared to Facebook's offering. I mean, Facebook's offering is very headset centric because they're also in the business of selling that hardware. Like they make the best VR headset in the game. It's just that VR never really took off in the way that a lot of people, including myself, thought that it would. Like the predictions about VR never really panned out. Now, do a lot of people have these headsets? Totally. Does eXp World 2.0 actually work really nicely from those headsets as well? It does. It's magical. I have one of these headsets, and if you want to be fully immersed and you have tracked hands, it's amazing. But I do think a big differentiator that we have that a lot of people value is just, hey, you can get into this thing whether you have one of those headsets or not, whether you're on a phone or not, desktop or not. It's a big deal.
Any questions, Larry?
This is so interesting, and there's so much more to learn here, but not in the short time that we have.
I predict that this podcast within the next 2 months, because I am going to try to do this meeting in a couple of weeks, and I'm gonna speak to Andrew and see what I can come up with. I think we're gonna have Gabe on the show again, in the near future, and talk about how this actually might change the way we do business. I mean, it's a very, very unique technology that I guess we're all going to be embracing.
Yeah, I think so, and I really want this to feel like technology that you embrace, not just because it's something required by the company or some trendy thing of the day. Like my mission here is to convince all of you within the company and outside of the company that you can actually get real value from this stuff. And I personally, I don't think that it makes sense for every meeting. I'm not saying, every online meeting should be in the metaverse, but for a lot of meetings, I think it makes fantastic sense. I still hop on some Google Meets sometimes, but I really do think this stuff is fantastic. We're making it easier to get into. We're going to make it easier to use. We're going to make it easier to do a whole range of things that you're not used to doing from World. I mentioned those 360 photos, 3D models. We're getting us ready for the future, and I'm just always excited to talk about it.
Thank you so much, Gabe Baker from should we say Verbella or EXPI or
the Frame team, the Frame team that is building EXP World 2.0.
Okay, great, and thank you, Larry, and happy Cinco de Mayo to everyone. And we'll see you back next week on the Exponential Files podcast. Like us everywhere.